What is up, guys? It is the Bluebloods here, back with our second episode of NFL Draft Corner here on the Bluebloods, and we are joined by my favorite guest, by far my favorite guest. We've had him on for our game day special. We've been on his podcast, Couch Coach Live. We got Couch Coach himself here today to talk some Washington football team with us. So I appreciate you joining me, man.
Hey, definitely thank you guys for having me on. I definitely appreciate the opportunity.
Absolutely. And we got our boy B-Dub back. So I
Yeah.
know the first thing on everyone's mind is, what would you grade this season, man? A playoff run, you win your division, even though I don't know if a lot of people are putting any stock into winning that division. But in just terms of from a fan's perspective, how do you grade the season?
I want to say a C plus. The beauty about this team is it has an identity. I look at just the bringing in Ron Rivera. He's we call him Riverboat Ron. He's a tough, strong. As far as he's a guy that's just resilient, and it's almost this team took on his personality. Definitely when we looked at in the beginning of the season, we knew it was going to be like some bumps, some bumpy roads ahead. Obviously, we took growing pains from here and there, and the beauty about this team, out of all the teams I've seen, even dating back to Joe Gibbs, second administration of Joe Gibbs, this team fought hard. Like, you knew every week they came to play. There was never no doubt of saying, hey, they BS'd around or they ain't leave nothing off the field. They left everything on the field, and kudos to this team, man. They definitely exceeded my expectations, even at 7-9.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. And you make the playoffs. You have a quarterback hole that some people thought you could fill in the draft, but now with the 49ers apparently thinking Mac Jones is a top 3 quarterback, that's looking real unlikely. I had y'all taking Mac Jones in the first draft. Not going to happen now, not at 20. So, but you guys go out and get Ryan Fitzpatrick. That's it for me. That was an interesting move. What do you think about I guess what would you say about that move? Do you think Fitzpatrick can get you guys another division title this year?
Yeah, and I think the mindset was more so of, hey, with Alex Smith last year hobbled to a point. I mean, no disrespect, but just what he's been through. 5-2, as a starter there. So you got to think to yourself, this team is not too far away from contending. So if you get what we call a game manager, a guy that's almost at this point a healthier version of Alex Smith and a little bit better than Alex Smith, that you can kind of continue with what you had, and not even in the sense of more stability, but just more so the fact having that veteran leadership there as well. That's almost the same locker room presence that Alex Smith possessed. You get the same guy essentially.
Right. And listen, I think I think Washington football team had probably one of the best free agencies. You go out and get Fitzpatrick, you get Curtis Samuel to go along with McLaurin that you have already. You nail the Antonio Gibson draft pick. I'm so glad y'all drafted him. Me and Brandon said he's a first round talent that isn't going to go first round. We've been real high on him. And then just defensively, I mean, how does the Washington football team always nail their defensive draft picks? You got Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen, Chase Young, Montez Sweat. So just in terms of, let's start with free agency. How would you grade your free agency this year?
I want to say a B. You kind of feel needs that essentially was needed. The sneaky one was William Jackson. I think that was one that a lot of people, looked at as like the sleeper one. I think that was kind of essential. And then also Curtis Samuel. I think that definitely eases up Terry McLaurin's load. And then of course, their connection with Ohio State. So that's another one where those guys all come together and they bond, and almost similar, like you talked about the Alabama guys and Payne and Allen and Ryan Anderson. So you look at those, those guys, and it's just like they come from winning programs, and it's starting to become infectious, all over the place.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's look at the draft. This is where me and Brandon can specialize. We've covered these guys almost their whole career now. We're going into our 30 of our podcast, so sounds crazy to say. the football team, they have actually a lot of picks. I mean, they have a first, second, 2/3. So you have 4 picks in the top 82 picks. That's not bad. Then you got an early 4th-round pick as well. Where do you want to see them go? So if you're just looking at this roster, what positions are you saying we are going to have to draft somebody there?
So, and this is one thing where it's like need versus want, and that's the beauty about this team where obviously they need a left tackle, they need some help on that offensive line. That's a need. A want is a linebacker. And a part of me because I look at Jack Del Rio as pretty much the prototypical linebacker back in the day at the USC, and he needs that type of linebacker that's almost similar to him and almost to like what he's had in previous regimes. We look at like there's other guys with that. So the need is the line, but the one is gotta be the linebacker core. And what our position, like you said earlier, it would have been the quarterback, but the way things are going now, it's impossible at 19 to get as far as a top 5 quarterback at this point. It's a wash unless they trade up, which I doubt they do that.
Yeah, I think there was a mock draft. I don't remember who they had you guys trade into like 11 or something, and I was like, I don't know if I would go to just 11. I mean, you're gonna have to go to probably 4. But in terms of quarterback, is there any late round guys that you like? I mean, you got a guy like Kellen Mond, you got Kyle Trask. Is there anyone you like back there?
I thought about Kellen Mond. I really because with Trask, it's interesting too because I think. With Mon, you probably get him in the 3rd round. I doubt it very seriously you can get Trask in the 3rd round, the way things are going. And a part of you, because you're like, okay, well, we need to kind of address some needs because I think how I'm looking at it, either in that 19th pick, you got to hit a home run, either get, a tackle or, an offensive lineman, or you get a linebacker. But then that 2nd pick, you need to get somebody. If you don't get a linebacker in the 1st round, you need to get you need to get an offensive lineman or a wide receiver in that 2nd round. So quarterback is kind of in a weird way. It's kind of like maybe 3rd or 4th as far as the pecking order of what's needed with this team.
Right. I mean, I think Kellen Mond be interesting because you wouldn't expect him to start immediately. I don't care if he goes to I don't care if he goes to the worst franchise in the league. He's not going to be able to start year 1. But just looking, I mean, some of the guys that have been rumored to go, I want Brandon's opinion on this one too. One of the guys in the late round that they have Washington football team liking Jabril Cox a lot out of LSU, transfer for North Dakota State. I would like to hear both of y'all's opinion on how he might fit in the football team scheme.
I think it would be a good. I think it'd be solid. I think it'd be a solid contribution.
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who obviously underperformed at LSU, did wonders at North Dakota State. I don't know if we can chalk up, his performance at LSU to just what he is. I think he's much better than he played at LSU. Bo Pelini's scheme was kind of iffy. It was a COVID-riddled season. I don't know if you can blame him for how this season went. He didn't really perform that bad, in all honesty. I mean, all things considered, he still had a pretty good season. He just didn't perform the way everybody thought he would. I think he would fit very well in the Washington football team scheme. I think there's a couple guys ahead of him who they're probably looking at a lot harder. Honestly, I think they probably do end up going with the linebacker in the 1st round of the draft.
Yeah. I mean, I think it depends. So I don't know if you guys have been following as much, but there's a lot of rumors that Penei Sewell, Christian Darrisaw, Rashawn Slater are going to fall outside the top 10 because of all these teams taking quarterbacks, Kyle Pitts, Devontae Smith, Jamar Chase. So I know you said you didn't want to trade up, but if you see Penei Sewell sitting there at, let's say, 13, you might want to jump at that, right? I mean, that's a once in a lifetime talent.
And it's funny because, man, Zach, we've been talking about Penei Sewell for almost a year. Like, we talked about him in August. It's like he's a generational, like, can't miss. He should be behind Trevor Lawrence. And I'm seeing, like you said, I'm seeing mock drafts where he's going like 13th descent to Los Angeles with the Chargers. I'm like, what is going on? Like Cincinnati. I've even seen them get in Jamar Chase, but then you just seen how demolished Joe Burrow was in that Washington game and ended up getting hurt. So part of me is like, and it's so weird. And that's the thing where it's so beautiful about this draft, where we look at like the tackle spot, it's a lot of availability at that 19 spot. That's why it's almost like, because I mean, you can have Slater might be down there, and then because even some of them, it's almost like they kind of like going neck and neck. Dershot, the one from Virginia Tech, where you see them kind of being in that mid. Like I think like the Raiders at 17. There's gonna be a run after like 13 of them. So it's intriguing. I like you said, I never thought because my first thing was the Jets. Number 2, get Penei Sewell. That was my from the jump, but obviously that's not gonna happen.
I think they're pretty sold on Zach Wilson right now. But I mean, you look at the different players. I mean, what's up, man? Go ahead.
I got an idea here. Because there's a guy who's been slipping down a lot of draft awards. Pretty good offensive tackle. Zach thinks very highly of him. If Alex Leatherwood is still there at 19, what do we think about him?
I think he's solid. And I think he's very solid. And another guy I'm intrigued about is Elijah Vera Tucker. Because he's one that it's funny because a month ago, I think he was like a top 15 pick, and like you said, and it's crazy because I did a mock draft and it was crazy because it was weird because everybody had, Sewell at 5 and then the next offensive lineman one picked like 18th. And I'm like,
wow.
I don't know how realistic that is, but it's a distinct possibility. I mean, this draft is gonna be so interesting of how you see how many people fall.
Yeah, and Leatherwood's interesting. I've seen mock drafts that have him graded as a 3rd round pick.
That's what I'm saying.
This is a guy who is. I mean, we looked at the way too early mock draft from I believe it was Matt Miller from the Draft Network a year ago. This guy was a top 5 pick, and you might get him in the 3rd round, and that just blows my mind that Leatherwood's slipping. And then you look at someone even like he might not be a tackle, but Landon Dickerson would be a 1st round talent if he isn't coming off the injury. And we were covering the Seahawks on our last Draft Corner episode. This is a guy who might fall to the 3rd round as the best. He was like a Remington Award finalist, and he's going to be a 3rd round pick out of Alabama. I mean, and I want to look at the linebackers. That's why I'm excited. Personally, me and Brandon are doing our mock draft. Well, I guess when this episode comes out, our mock draft will be out Sunday, guys. But we're recording this beforehand. I have actually the Washington football team going linebacker here, but it's probably an unconventional pick. I'll spoil it for everybody. Xavier Collins, for me, is arguably the best linebacker in the draft, in my opinion. I mean, the kid had a 94 coverage grade from Pro Football Focus. And he runs like a defensive back, but he's 6'5", 260, playing linebacker and can run like a 4.4. I mean, sign me up. Yeah, he's a big dude. He was the AAC Defensive Player of the Year, and Pro Football Focus said he is a more athletic Brian Urlacher, and this guy's not getting any talent. I mean, how is your pro comp a more athletic Brian Urlacher, but no one's talking about you going in the 1st round, and that just blows my mind. So I think Xavier Collins teamed up with all the athletes because, I mean, Montez Sweat probably runs a 4.3, I would imagine, with how fast he is. If you have Montez Sweat, Chase Young, and Xavier Collins back there, y'all are going to be scary.
You know who else I like? Who I think if he slides us, is almost like you got to get him. Jeremiah Oswan Kamara, and I'm telling you, when I read like a scout report for him, and they were saying he's better than Isaiah Simmons, I was like, okay, let's keep this a secret. Like, don't tell nobody this because we don't want no other GMs to get a wind of that. Because, like you say, and that's another interesting piece where he can be that dynamic linebacker that we need, and he's versatile. He can, in some place he could be your box safety. He could just be a spy. I mean, he's versatile. That's the thing I like about his versatility.
Yeah, and I think there's a guy, so I don't know if y'all have heard about this guy, but he's been sneaking into a lot of people's 1st rounds. It's Jamon Davis from Kentucky.
Yeah.
I mean, people are saying that this dude could possibly be the biggest steal of the draft. And you look at his pro day, he ran what, a 4.3, I believe it was, at linebacker. And I mean, you look at what he did. He had over 100 tackles. I mean, he was what, 6'3.5", 234, had a 42-inch vert, which would have ranked second behind DJ Metcalf in one of the last NFL combines. And you just look at him, and so Brandon can probably relate to this. His pro comp for me is Demario Davis for the Saints. He doesn't miss tackles. He was the leader of Kentucky's defense, and he's just so athletic. And in his entire career, he missed 11 tackles. For all 3 years he was at Kentucky, only 11 missed tackles, and he's like I said, he's a big dude. He's fast, ran a 4.3, and doesn't miss tackles. And if he's there in the second round for Washington, you got to take a kid like that has a first round. I mean, because we see it every year, guys. I mean, just because you got a first round grade don't mean you're going to end up being anything. And we see these second, third round picks arguably turn out to be better. So I think Jamon Davis would be a outstanding pick for Washington if they can get their hands on him.
Absolutely. Yeah, and that's the thing. That's the beauty thing about it, where it's almost like they're in a spot now where you get the need, but there's also value in other positions that you need as well. So it's almost like you still got to hit a home run, but in the majority of these picks. But
right. And I mean, listen, if Washington takes a defensive player, I'm going to trust them on it. I have no reason to believe anyone they pick on defense is not going to work out. Offense, maybe a little bit, especially if there's a reach for a quarterback. I'm going to be like, ooh, not a great history there in terms of, Washington drafting quarterbacks. But I mean, so overall, so you would like to see a linebacker, O-line, of course, being taken. Is there a position where you're like, okay, if we don't have a linebacker there, we don't have O-line, so we see the Cowboys right now talking about, man, we would love to have Kyle Pitts. Let's just make the rich richer with our offensive passing scheme. Where can Washington get richer when you're just like, we don't need this Lambo right here, but we're going to take them if, what we need isn't there.
It's funny because, when, looking at these mock drafts, and I feel like it's almost like they're forcing us to get a wide receiver. And that's the thing where it looks like they could be a slide of wide receivers. I know a lot of people are putting us with Rondale Moore in that spot. Rashad Bateman. I see a lot of those. I see a lot of those wide receivers. It almost feel like it's most of the mock drafts are saying, hey, just get the best available at this position. So more likely it probably would be the wide receiver position because you look at what they already have. And I still I love the nucleus that we have already. And then you're looking at Kelvin Harmon coming back from injury, also Cam Sims and, other things. And then he's also even throwing Logan Thomas, who I think now has started to become a bona fide tight end in this league. So I think they're good enough, as far as wide receiver range, but I tell you, everybody wants to get a wide receiver. It's almost just like even doing the simulator, always a wide receiver available. I'm like, no, we're not doing that.
Listen, I don't think Bateman would be great. I don't think Bateman's a true slot guy, and you already have your two outside guys, so I don't like how Bateman fits. Rondale Moore, though, I will say, if we're going to take a wide receiver, you stick his 5'7" self in the slot who runs a 4.2 alongside Curtis Samuel who runs a 4.3, alongside Terry who runs arguably a 4.2. We're talking about a track team that competes with the Chiefs wide receiving core then.
Yeah.
That would be nasty. But I mean, so as we come to the end of this episode, we got to ask. I asked our Seahawks guy. We're going to ask everybody, if the draft goes according to plan, y'all get a decent offensive lineman, y'all get a wide receiver, y'all get a linebacker. What is your expectations for this next season?
Double digits wins. I see them winning 10 to maybe 12 games this season. I see them winning the division again and being in contention. I look at a situation where we were 9 points short of beating the Super Bowl champion Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So, hey, why not why not reach for the sky at this point? To me, I look at that as a motivating piece to say, hey guys, all we need is a little bit more effort. We almost beat the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I mean, I think y'all's division is going to be the most improved in the NFL. The Giants went out and said, have our money, everybody.
Well, it's not hard to do, Zach.
That's true. That's true. The Cowboys got Dak, so whatever y'all want to say about that. But the last question here, man, they keep postponing the name announcement. We're the Washington football team for the foreseeable future right now. I think they pinned a year down. I don't know if they've pinned like a date for the release, but for you, what do you expect? Like as a fan, what do you want to see? Or are there any names you're just like, please don't let us have that mascot?
And you know what's so funny? A part of me wants to keep it. I mean, to me,
really.
Yes. At first, I hated it because at first it just sounds generic. But the thing about it is, we're the only team that is called the football team, like the Washington football team. It almost give you that soccer like feeling. Like maybe the Washington football club, but I think even the team is fine as well. I think it has its own identity. You're still able to keep the kind of the burgundy and gold mystique of it. Like all the other ones, you just seem so like generic and childish and almost like video game. Like when you create a team on on the video game, how cheesy and generic they sound. But I actually love it. And then even just now looking at the apparel, obviously now we getting more apparel in, and I love the draft hats. And I'm like, man, this I'm feeling this. I definitely like that. And then the helmets with the names, and that's one thing too. It has grown on me, and I'm loving it. I say keep it.
I thought I don't know about you guys, but I thought they like you. I think they nailed the design. They really did. Like for the logo, for the font, for the merch, they nailed that. So is there a chance? I mean, I don't have my pulse on it as well. Is there a chance they keep the name or change it to like the football club?
From what they're saying, they're still doing this whole like as far as having people like make names for it. So a part of me think that they will, but a part of me is like I would just keep it. Especially considering the fact, because I don't know what's as far as I know they want to try to get a new stadium and so that I look at it like this. I think you just keep it, especially you won a division, and then just change the name again and let's just keep it neutral. No one will come after us with that name. So I don't think no one would be opposed of the current name change at this point that I can see. But yeah.
Oh man, so I'm looking forward to it.
I want to get your guys' opinion real quick before we end.
Mm-hmm.
You know what name I hate and everybody else seems to love is the Washington Red Wolves. I don't get it.
Oh, I hate that too. Because honestly, because it is funny when you say that because that's like the video game type of thing that you see, and I'm just like, there's no Red Wolves in Washington D.C. or the Greater Maryland area. What is that?
Right.
That's right. I didn't even know that was an option. That is a bad option.
Yes.
But I forgot. Is it someone the Red Wolves in college football? Isn't it like Arkansas State?
Yep, sure is.
Or something like that. So, like, you guys will share a name with Arkansas State, which is probably never a good thing if you're an NFL team.
No.
Oh, that's brutal. That's brutal. But, man, I appreciate you coming on. Me and Brandon love having you on. We'll make sure to have you on more often. I know we're looking forward to the draft. I know you are too. So, where can our listeners find you? I know that me and you are always on back and forth on social media, so I'm sure, like, a lot of our listeners know who you are already, but where can they find you and your show?
Yes, indeed. So under here, I always miss the mark. Couch Coach Live. I always miss that. So Couch Coach Live, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram under Couch Coach Live, and also TikTok, YouTube, and also check out the podcast on Apple, Spotify, anywhere you get your podcasts.
Awesome, man. Awesome, guys. So when you go check ours out, make sure to go check out Couch Coach. He is one of the best out here doing it. We love having him on the show. He's one of my favorite people to have on here. But guys, for myself, for Brandon, and for Couch Coach, we are out for now.